Welcome back to another episode of Life with Lam. Today I'm here with...
Josh Seddon.
How are you going?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. I spent the whole day with you. It's been really nice getting to know you, and we even hit out a gym sesh, which is very nice.
That was pretty sick pump.
Getting the sick pump. How are you feeling? You excited? We were just saying that you felt that, we're repeating the Melbourne interviews.
Yeah, just a little bit. I'm excited to sit down and talk with you today because I feel like you've got some questions and want to try to answer as many as I can.
You're a very smart cookie.
Oh, you think so, mate? You are overstating that for sure.
But, talk to me. Talk to the listeners. Who are you? What do you do?
Who am I? That's a really hard question for myself to answer. Well, I guess I'll start with my name again, Josh. I grew up down in Bayside. I've been studying my undergrad at Melbourne. I've been doing biomedicine. I just graduated, thankfully. So now I've got a little bit of a holiday. I spend a lot of my time, I guess. What do I do? You're making me question myself, actually, to be honest. I spend a lot of time...
currently not much.
Currently not much, to be honest.
But before that, graduated into medicine school.
That is correct.
Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you very, very much.
Has it sunk in yet?
That's a really interesting question. I think that it has, but it's not what I expected. So it's hit me a little bit different. I think everyone that does try to get into a graduate course, regardless of what it is, and really sets a goal and then finally achieves it, it's not always what you kind of imagine. I think that's something I found pretty interesting, I guess, because it's been 3 weeks now since I've been accepted, and I just haven't had that reaction I expected. Not to say it wasn't a bad reaction, but it's definitely been different.
Like more anticlimactic.
Yeah, that's definitely it. I remember getting the email, and I kind of opened it. I was like, yes, that's awesome. I'm really happy. And then I was kind of like, oh, now what do I do? And now I've got 3 months where I'm just, trying to figure out what to spend my time on, because I've been so focused on getting this goal that I've kind of been like, it's kind of weird taking a step back. It's refreshing, don't get me wrong. I'm very happy that I do have this time to myself now. But I guess this gives me an opportunity to kind of find out, what do I like doing?
Yeah, what do you like doing?
What do I like doing?
Biomed's a bit of a grind. So I feel like, the 3 years that you spent... 3 years, yeah?
It was 3 years. It is a grind. Absolutely a grind. More so the last 2 years. The first year I spent a little bit of time settling into the university life, I think, and really getting to enjoy that experience.
Enjoying your Jaffe year.
Yeah. That's it, right? I was really lucky that it was pre-pandemic, and so I got to really experience the full kind of ride, I guess, for 1 year. And hopefully listeners get to experience going into uni if they're not graduating the next year. Hopefully it goes back to normal.
Yeah, for sure.
But the last 2 years, that was definitely heated up in terms of academically and the commitments and things. Definitely glad to take a step back now and just unwind a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Relax. Now, this is our second time meeting, actually, but, we've been sliding into... Well, I slid into your DMs.
Slid into my DMs.
And, we exchanged grams the first time we met, but, I've known a little bit about you, because my girlfriend is obviously in the committee with you. But how did we meet,
How did we meet?
You're a big boy.
Well, I think people wanted us to arm wrestle, was how we met, to be honest. I think that's literally the first thing I said to you is I said, I don't want to arm wrestle you. I don't know if I'll win.
Yeah. I was terrified. I was like, please... I hope this guy does not want to arm wrestle me.
No, right? I was like, everyone's like, guys, arm wrestle. And I was like, a bit of context first. We were at a friend's a little apartment, kind of meet and greet. And I was friends with him through university. We both did biomed, and you're dating someone else that was at Ithaca.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of crossed paths, and I think people noticed. They're like, damn, these two people probably lift weight, and they probably should arm wrestle.
I was wearing an oversized shirt, so I don't know how people saw that shit.
Oh, you see that shit. Don't worry. Don't you worry. You can tell it's the you're filling out the shirt like a Dorito.
Oh wow, you're too kind.
Stop it, you make me blush. But they want us to arm wrestle, and you didn't want to, I didn't want to, and I think from there we had a bit of a mutual respect that we don't need to macho each other.
Yeah, exactly. I put our egos aside.
It's no need for ego, not in the slightest.
Exactly. First impressions.
First impressions of you, really, really kind, genuine.
Wow. Thank you so much.
It's very cool. That's exactly why I accept this podcast, because you seem very down to earth. It's something I really admire in people, and it's pretty rare to see someone very much in tune with themselves. And that's why I kind of got the vibe from you. Like, you seem really comfortable in your skin. And, like, you were there in... Well, I didn't know that you, like, knew people there. I was kind of like, oh, are you just, like, a boyfriend that's been dragged along? Like, I'm not sure. Because, like, that's been me in the past.
Oh, yeah. It's not a good position to be in.
No,
but, you know.
But you really felt like you were yourself there in your skin, and you seemed really comfortable. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. And the fact that you know, didn't try to, like, like, out masculine, kind of, like, that kind of stuff. I was like, wow, dude, this guy really seems to be a pretty genuine, down to earth dude, and that really was made my night. And then when you slid into my DMs, and I was like, okay, yes, I will do this podcast, because if I get an excuse to go to the gym with you, oh no.
Nah, I was like, damn, this guy's a big boy.
Nah, is this the shirt, mate?
Nah, you're a big boy in yourself, and you know, hit a nice sesh before.
It was a fantastic session. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. That was actually really nice. I had heard your voice a lot because during lockdown Isika stayed over, which was very nice, and she had meetings with the BSS committee, and you know, I never knew who you were, but I like knew of you, and it was so nice to like finally see you. And then I was like, thank God he did not arm wrestle me because I was like, that is toxic masculinity.
That is toxic masculinity, 100%.
But, you know, now we're here doing the pod.
We are doing the pod.
Now talk to me about biomed. Like your experience in high school, I guess, and like what were the steps leading up to you actually choosing to do biomed?
I think I kind of touched on this before when I was speaking to you, but I guess I'll reiterate.
Off air, you know,
reiterate it for the pod. I didn't really. I was in year 11, 12. I did year 11 3-4 bio because my sister did, and she was like, "Oh, you should do it. You should like, you know, get a 3-4 out of the way." Blah blah blah. I did that in year 10 actually, or year 1, 2 and year 10. But I ended up doing IB instead. And so I still did biology and things, and like I was kind of interested in that through like schools and the biological sciences. I was a bit of a nerd in that sense, like chemistry, biology, hit me up, man. I was kind of like, this is my jam versus like languages and things. But I remember I was in year 12, and I didn't, again, no clue what I wanted to do, and I remember my mum kind of encouraged me to sit the UMAT, and she's like, oh, like it's the undergrad medical test for people that don't know. And she's like, well, you never know, maybe you'll get 100% in it, and then you'll get into medicine, you'll be a doctor. And I was like, oh, okay, mum. And I was like, I'll sit it, whatever. I wasn't really passionate about medicine at all. I was kind of just like, yeah, okay, it's a test. If it was anything else, like an LSAT or a scholarship test, like she's made me sit tests in the past.
Yeah, I guess give context about your mum, because we were talking off air as well.
Yeah, of course. She's a very, very lovely woman. It's probably a really good start. She's very, very supportive. So everything I've done, a lot of it at least, she's really encouraged me to do so. I feel like she's always pushing me in the right directions to like make, not necessarily the right decisions, but like to seek out the right opportunities. And I guess it's been through my entire childhood, probably from like middle school onwards, where she's always kind of been like, hey Josh, you should like get involved in this, you should get involved in this, see where your passions lie, whether you should like take this opportunity to like volunteer somewhere and like see, not just give back to the community, but also like see what your interests really are. I think that was really a big thing. And so like I worked in, she encouraged me to work in like elderly care, so I worked and volunteered there. I volunteered in like toy libraries. I volunteered at a camp for disadvantaged children from like rural areas. And I guess like all these experiences and things really kind of shaped who I am kind of today.
And it shows you're a very kind and down to earth person as well. So it's like it is very refreshing, like you said as well. I think like-minded people, you know.
Absolutely. Drink protein water. So what can I say?
And yeah, I guess your mum has sort of paved this way for you, but Absolutely. You were saying that she wasn't sort of like, you know, like a classic, you know, tiger mum.
Mum. No, not at all. She's been probably one of the most influential people in my life. I reckon honestly, I would not be sitting here today in the slightest if it hadn't been for her. She's just always encouraged me in the right directions. When I'd pick something, she'd support me. If it was something stupid, she would be like, Josh, hey, like, I think you should think about this. And I'd be like, okay. And I'd take a step back and talk to her. But I never felt like she was forcing me in a direction. I never felt like she encouraged me to sit this UMAT, right? And spoiler alert, I didn't get into Monash medicine. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here. But again, she's always been encouraging me in the right directions. And so she said, hey, Josh, even if you don't want to study medicine, because again, I wasn't that passionate about at the time, why don't you pick something that you enjoy? You like the biological sciences. Why don't you pick biomedicine instead? Why don't you do that?
What was your, sorry to cut you off, what were you set on before that?
Well, again, it was really tough. I never really knew. I knew that I didn't want to do math, even though I wasn't bad at math. It felt so I'm going to say this and people are going to get like, they disagree. The mathematician's going to disagree with me, and that's absolutely right. This is a very narrow-minded view because of my very limited exposure to mathematics. But I felt like I was just doing the same thing over and over again, and I was kind of like filling out. It was a different equation, but it was the same thing, and it never really stuck out to me. I think that's probably because I was so limited in my exposure. I feel like if I got like, my grandfather was actually a theoretical mathematician, so it skipped a generation, let's just say. But yeah, I never really liked that. I never really liked like, I was always fairly articulate, and mum encouraged me to do debating. English I quite enjoyed. I thought like thematically I really enjoyed that kind of stuff. I enjoyed history. I did history in year 12, but I never really envisioned myself as anything aside from probably something to do with the sciences. I did see myself as well in kind of like a less academic field. I saw myself as like in paramedicine, or like, I kind of mentioned this before, Dad used to take me skiing, and I saw myself as like a ski patroller and like someone that like, rescues people on the slopes, considering, look mate, the amount of injuries I've had on the slopes and being taken down a little trolley down the mountain has been astronomical. But yeah, like I absolutely just think that I found myself wanting to pursue academics. I think that's, again, because I did pretty decently in year 12. I think that pushed me to say, hey, if you can do this, you can get into this, you should probably pursue something academic. And so I found like I picked biology, something based. I picked biomedicine. I think the reason I picked biomedicine is because I was like, it's a bit more like biological. I thought it was a bit more attuned to like medical stuff. Even though I wasn't passionate about medicine, I thought it was a bit more like biologically inclined compared to science, where I was like, I did a science elective in first year at the Breadth, and it was like astronomy, and I wasn't vibing it.
Yeah.
And there's a few like, part of biomedicine you had to do like physics and stuff, and I just wasn't vibing that too much. I didn't hate it. I actually quite liked it, but I didn't have a passion for it. But I did have a passion for things like anatomy. I did have a passion for things outside. I had a passion for sports in the gym, and I was kind of like, hey, biomedicine is something where you can choose a major in anatomy. You can also get an exposure to everything before picking your major, whereas I feel like science is a little bit too flexible for me, as in I feel like I wouldn't have known what to do if I wasn't giving a bit more of a rigid structure. And so biomedicine kind of stood out for those reasons. And I guess from biomedicine to end up in medicine now, I think it's still a combination of like my old motivations to like, be involved in like patient care in terms of person-to-person interactions, like being a ski patrol, helping people in that kind of capacity.
And you were saying you wanted to be a teacher as well.
Yeah,
but your teacher was like, don't you dare do that.
No, my teachers, yeah, I actually mentioned that year 12 to one of my teachers. I said, they asked me what I want to do, and I said, I wouldn't mind being like a biology teacher. And they said to me, they're like, do not.
You got so much potential, please do not.
You can do more than that. And I was like, oh, wow, that was actually really eye-opening. Because I always thought of my teachers as smart, like very, very smart, very, very intelligent people. And not to say they aren't, but I didn't realize that they viewed themselves as like not that like high in society. I think that's bullshit. Like I think that's completely like not true. I still disagree with that teacher today. I think teachers are like fundamental to society.
They provide the education
absolutely.
as well. And even if your teacher is shit, which unfortunately sometimes
it
happens.
does happen.
But they still pass on some forms of
and
knowledge.
I disagree with the teacher. I still disagree with that teacher. However, it did open my eyes to other pathways. But I do like teaching, which is why I am, again, medicine. One of the big things in medicine is teaching. It's mentorship. It's when you talk to people above you, you learn information, they teach you, you teach the below you. It's been the same in biomedicine. I've tried to take a bit more of a mentorship role. And in medicine, like the way it's structured, your residents, your interns, your medical students, your attending doctors, like it's a hierarchy, and it's teaching from one generation to the next. And that's something that really stood out to me.
Yeah, for sure.
I kind of want to go back actually to uni and be like a lecturer or something when I'm older.
I think you'd be a very good lecturer. Like I'd sit back just to listen to you talk.
You'd sit to my lecturer. Thank you.
I guess for the listeners who don't know, maybe give them a rundown on like how you got into medicine school and like what the process was from there.
From medical school. Okay,
so like talk about like Gamsat or
so basically I mentioned it before, I set the UMAT. So there's two ways to get into medicine in Australia. You can either do the undergraduate entry or you can do the graduate entry. So the undergraduate entry is only offered by a few universities. Monash is one of them. And it's a little bit of a shorter course. Instead of 7 years technically, because you have to do an undergrad for graduate entry, it's 5 years. So it's a little bit attractive in that sense. But you have to sit the UMAT, and it's straight from school. And if you don't do well on the UMAT, which is a not questionable test, it's a pretty it's novel, is one way to put it. If you don't do very well on that, then regardless of the ATAR, you're not going to get into undergrad med. So I did okay in that test, but I didn't do amazingly. I got an interview to Monash Medicine, but I ended up not getting into there. And I'm actually really, really quite grateful that I did. Because at the time, I did not know I wanted to do medicine. And I just did the test because Mum wanted me to. And even though, like, again, I support that, I don't know what I would have done if I got in. I don't know if I would have actually taken it. Yeah. So the other entry is graduate entry. So with graduate entry in Australia, what you do, you have to do an undergraduate before you start medicine. And so an undergraduate could be anything. At the moment, they've actually removed all prerequisites for medicine moving forward. So you can do an arts degree, you could do a design degree, you could do a science degree, do a biomed degree, it doesn't matter. You can do anything, and you can then apply to medicine. There's a combination. Entry to medicine is determined by multiple factors. So you've got, firstly, your scores in uni. So they call it your GPA. It's basically your grade point average. It's like, how many H1s have you basically gotten? How well are you sitting at uni? They calculate it using it like a different mathematics, and there's calculators online if you want to try to calculate your own GPA. There's that. There's also something called the Gamsat, which is, graduate admissions, something along those lines, medical admissions test.
Just the GAMI.
The GAMI. That is a very grueling exam. That's it used to be 6 hours. I think it's 5 now. Where basically it's composed of essay writing, science, like physics, chemistry, biology, and literature, reading comprehension. And you basically get scored on that. And then if your score in that is competitive, and so is your GPA, so uni grades, you'll be considered for an interview at the school. And so the interviews, I was lucky enough, very fortunate to receive an interview to Melbourne Medicine about 3 months ago. And then from there, I started grinding, started trying to speak, started becoming a bit more articulate and trying to be more concise in the way I spoke. And I practiced, and I sat the interview. And once you sit the interview, they basically take your interview grade, they take your Gamsat grade, and they take your GPA grade. And they weight the interview 50%, your GPA is 25%, and your Gamsat 25%. And they see whether you got ranked high enough to be admitted. And I think in Melbourne Uni, there's 150 non-chancellor CSP spots available for medicine. There's a bit more bonded and a bit more full fee places, but I won't really go into those. But yeah, I'm really, really fortunate that I was successful, and I'm looking forward to starting the next 4 years of my medical career because, oh gosh, it's going to be a long trek.
All the best for that.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask, how did you prepare for interviews and
How did
things?
I prepare? So I'm in the camp of people that believe that you can practice for interview. You absolutely should. I think a lot of people conflate the interview as being a test of competence, the fact that you're not a robot. That's not true. The interview is a test of excellence. It's a test of how well do you speak under pressure, how well do you answer certain questions, how well can you communicate. It's not just, are you a robot? It's not just, do you have a good personality? A lot of people get confused. They get they're not aware that the fact that they think that a lot of people that are doing really well academically are robots. They think they're like people that sit at home and study. It's a misconception.
Yeah.
No, there are a lot of very smart, articulate people that you are competing against. You got to remember it's a competition. 500 people get interviewed for Melbourne Uni, or 550. And I think about half of those get accepted. So you have to be in the top half, not just of your grades, but also of your interview. So it's not just a test of competence, because that would imply that 50% of people are robots. That's not true. Not in the slightest. So yeah, for the interview, I prepared basically I think I started by figuring out what are my weak points. And I know my weak points. I tended to ramble. I was very poor with conciseness. And so even though I spoke well and I could articulate myself, I wasn't very concise. And so I'd often lose people when talking. And so I was like, okay, I've got a minute to answer these questions. I need to answer them in a minute. It doesn't matter how good my answer is if I can't get it out in a minute. So a lot of my practice really came down to timing myself to a question, saying, can I answer this question in a minute? If I can't, try again. Like, it's just that stuff, talking to my parents, talking to my friends, practicing interview. I took the same approach actually with my interview and Gamsat. I simulated it. I think like with the Gamsat, I sat probably before my Gamsat. The first time I did averagely, I didn't really do much. The second time I did much, much better. And I attribute that predominantly to the fact that I sat about 12 Gamsats in the 12 days leading up to the Gamsat. I sat like every single day trying to simulate what 6 hours would be like straight, because there's no point practicing how good you are at one section for 1 hour's worth. There's no point sitting down doing an hour of Gamsat. That's not what you're getting tested on. On the day, it's not just a test of 1 hour, it's a test of 6. So you have to be able to maintain that like concentration for such a long period. It doesn't matter how good you are answering questions if you're only good for about 30 minutes and then you start getting tired.
Yeah, it's like that intensity
absolutely
that you need to maintain.
And so I would give that advice to anyone seeing the Gamsat. Hey, go get some practice questions. You can find them on ASA. Like, they give some practice questions. You can find them on, there's something called Des O'Neill, which is free practice questions. Sit down, choose, if there's 75 questions in section 1, pick 75 questions, and then there's going to be 2 essays, pick 2 topics, and then there's going to be 100 science questions or whatever, or 70 or whatever it is. Set those out and then sit the whole thing. and then do that as many times as you can, and it's a test of that, and that's how you do it. I did the same thing for the interview. I sat interview after interview after interview, got different advice, different people. I think I definitely got better. A lot of people think they don't get better. No, even my mum said to me, again, I'm someone that I don't really struggle speaking too much, but my mum was like, mate, you improved so much from like the start. The first interview you gave, because I sat it with her, the last one I sat with her, she's like, night and day. So you can definitely improve. So that's kind of how I practice and approach that.
What kind of questions do they ask in the interview? Is it very like general?
I don't know if I can even say in terms of specifically, because I don't think they made us sign an NDA, but I don't think it's really fair for me to give the exact questions.
Of course, yeah.
But no, don't apologize. What I would say is a test of communication. They're tests of motivations as well. Like, I think generally I can speak. So they could ask you, for example, this is not what was on the interview, but they'll ask you, like, why do you want to study medicine? And then you answer that in a minute. And it's not about, I want to help people and just saying that really.
It's like thinking outside the box, and Absolutely. They test that.
Like the way I won't again go into it. The way they asked it on the interview was very out of the box. And if you'd had prepared an answer, you would have been had a very bad time answering that question, because it was requiring you to actually think on your feet, actually answer the question, be genuine. I think that goes a long way. Genuineness or genuinity or whatever the word is. Yeah. Being genuine goes a massive way, and it's not just about your personality. It's about your motivations. It's about your communication. It's about conflict resolution. It's about teamwork. It's about leadership skills. They ask you things that are like about your life experiences too. Like, what have you done? What have you done? How would you resolve this issue if this came up? And things like that, that you kind of have to have a lived experience to not bullshit your way through the question.
And do you attribute a lot of your mum's sort of past encouragement?
Absolutely. So I think my mum really pushed me in the right directions. And she, even though she wasn't pushing me into medicine, she was not. Even this making me sit the UMAT, or not, I say making,
it's like
encouraging
an
me.
Awesome foresight.
Absolutely. She's like, doing all these things will make you a better person. It will make you a more well-rounded person, and you'll know yourself and your motivations a bit more by doing this stuff and exploring. And so now I sit here, turning 21 very shortly and going into medicine, and I feel really, really comfortable that I'm doing the right thing. And that 3 years ago, if you'd asked me, do I want to study medicine, I'd be like, I don't know, like maybe, doctors, yeah, that'd be awesome. But now I'm sitting here, I'm like, no, that's actually what I want to do. And I have the reasons for it. So, yeah.
Yeah. I was having a chat with my remedial therapist yesterday, and she described like the process being really sort of like this elitist culture. I just want to get your thoughts on it, and like how you sort of coped with that, how you dealt with it, or were you just sort of immune to it?
Do you mean in terms of biomedicine?
Yeah, biomedicine.
Right. So I get what you mean. I think within... we should separate this question into two parts. Within biomedicine, the elitist culture, and with that, like outside of biomedicine too. So I think biomedicine is often perceived as like an elite group of individuals that all think they're all amazing and great and that they're the smartest people around. And not to say there aren't individuals like that, there definitely are. But a lot of people in biomedicine are there for the right reasons. And so whilst I think there is this perception of biomedicine as an elite culture, I think it's an oversimplification to call everyone in biomedicine elitist. I hope that's come across a little bit, yeah. But I think within biomedicine, though, you do have your individuals, even within the cohort, like between each other, that perceive themselves as better. They perceive themselves as like, they're going to get into medicine, they're going to be the greatest, they're going to get the H1, they're going to get a high score. And the way to deal with it, just don't talk to them. you just try to distance yourself. You find the right group of people. I think that's really important, that when entering biomedicine, forming friendships, entering uni in general, you are the product of the closest people to you. And so if you surround yourself by people that are like a bit more laid back, a bit more chill, a bit more like, hey, let's work this out together, let's be a team, let's actually try to do the best we can for each other and try to get through this degree together, you will be having a much, much better time. Versus if you surround yourself by people that are kind of driving you like in a different kind of way, in a more competitive kind of like be better than them, I think that's where you kind of become a little bit more what's the word? Competitive in a bad way. Like competitive in the sense that it's like over competitive. It's kind of like, hey, calm down. Take a step back.
Definitely. But there is this competitive nature, of course, in this in this degree or undergraduate degree. Yeah. What do you think about it as well? We had a chat about this in the car too.
About the competitive nature. I think it's like kind of a double-edged sword. I think on one hand it's bad because it can drive anxiety through the roof, I think, for a lot of individuals. Everyone's heard this before, but imposter syndrome is very real. I think everyone has it to some extent. Even the smartest people in the room sometimes belong, not all, everyone. Obviously, you've got your people that think they're the best, and maybe they are, maybe they're not. But a lot of people think that they shouldn't belong where they are. And that extends to everyone, or a lot of people. And so I think the competitive nature of biomedicine can be really debilitating to a lot of people. I think it can really drive anxiety through the roof. It can really make people struggle through the course. On the flip side, I think the competitive nature can actually be really good. I think it can drive you, it depends on the people you surround yourself with, but it can really drive you to be the best that you can be and to learn the most that you can. And for me, I guess the competitive nature, it more came from my close friends being like, oh yeah, I'll get 1% more than you, mate. Come on, mate. But it was a friendly kind of competition.
Yeah.
Whereas like,
wasn't like any malicious intent behind it.
that's it. Or like even like studying together. Like it wasn't even the competitive nature of that, but I personally never found myself like driven by this competitive like nature of biomedicine as a whole. Like I never found myself like in that course being like, hey, like I need to get into medicine. There's 700 people competing against medicine. I need to get in. They're all better than me. Like, I never found myself in that position. But I think that's probably, I was just kind of spared by that maybe. I don't know why I was spared, but hopefully it was because I surrounded myself by the right people and I kind of took a step back and tried to be a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah, for sure. Because I'm just thinking like it's pretty inevitable that I guess you're sitting next to your mate who is doing biomed, who's wanting to do the Gamsat, wanting that GPA as well. And I'm just thinking like, personally, in the back of my mind, it'd be droning, like, I have to be better than this person. Yeah. But, yeah, I guess, like, you think surrounding yourself with the right people is the way to go about it?
Yeah, and I think, obviously, not everyone. Well, I think everyone can do this to an extent, but I like to surround myself by people that are smarter than me and better than me, because I'm not going to get better or smarter if you're the smartest person in the room or you're the best person in the room. I think the way to improve and grow and to actually be more competitive is to compare yourself to people that are better than you and try to actually like find ways to kind of mimic them almost and like emulate that. So like what drives your friend to be better? Do they study more than you? Do they XYZ? Do they like have a better work ethic? Are they just naturally smarter? Like what is it? And try to determine what it is and try to focus on improving yourself and maximizing your own ability. And you can use your friend as a guide, I guess, or like a goal or set point. Like I definitely use people in the year above me as like kind of mentors to reach that goal. I never met the standard, but hey, I tried. And
I mean, you've made it pretty far.
Yeah, I mean, I never met their standard in terms of like, but it was definitely something I was really driving. And I didn't feel like I was competing against them. I felt like I was just trying to like emulate them almost and try to like see how they were successful and try to match that.
And I think that applies to anything really, like say gym. Like I love gymming with people who can like lift a lot more than me as well and like might have better technique, because it's like I'm improving off watching them and like getting a spot off them or getting a few pointers. Like we were at the gym and you were giving me pointers and I was like this is why sorry,
you didn't need them.
Oh no. Like always having that open mind and like willingness to learn and surrounding yourself with people who are better than you and having that humility is a really important life lesson. And I think like the way you've described it is perfect.
Thank you.
What else have we got? I want to move on from
sure.
biomed. I feel like some people might.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. If you still are, I feel like there's a few lessons in there. But you are a jack of all trades. Not only are you smart and handsome.
Stop it.
I might add that you were a leader and now ex-president of the Biomedical Student Society at Melbourne Uni.
That is correct. Yeah.
Yes. Talk to me about this experience and like
that experience.
Did mum push you into that as well, or
not
or
in the slightest? Actually, I think this one came pretty left field. I don't even like. I look back on how did I get involved in that, and I really think it was a product of just putting myself out there. I kind of mentioned to you before, off air, that I was the only person from my school to do biomedicine at Melbourne, and I was one of like 10 people to go to Melbourne University. Full stop, because my school was out in like kind of Bayside, so most people go to Monash, and so I really had to make new friends to survive. I was kind of like, oh no. I didn't really like high school very much. I thought I was forced to be with a group of people that I didn't really share values with, and I didn't really like feel like I connected with too much.
Yeah, we did talk about this as well, because you're saying with your mate, you just gymmed with him. You were just like, fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah, no, 100%. I have like 3 friends probably from high school, maybe 2 that I really speak to a lot. None else really. I felt like I was forced to be friends with people as a product of my environment rather than because I really wanted to. And so there's 2 in particular, I'm not going to name names, anyone's listening, that I really still talk to a lot. I still really enjoy being with. And so in school, we would just leave, because at lunchtime, we were allowed to go down the street to go get food. And every lunchtime, you get like, the toxic masculinity group playing like futsal or whatever they'd be playing, or soccer square or whatever it was. And we'd just run off down the street. We'd be like, I don't want to be here because I don't want to be involved in this kind of like, what's the word? toxic kind of culture. And I think going into university, I was really kind of looking for something that was different. And I was really looking for an opportunity to kind of like make new friends that had like-minded values. And I was going to Biomed. Everyone in Biomed, you know, they're not all the same, but like we do have some shared kind of interests. And I think I kind of found myself, you know, just putting myself down for the biomedical camp at the start of first year. I was like, yeah, why not? I was pretty into like going out and clubbing and drinking and that kind of stuff. I was 18, fresh 18, so I was kind of like, yeah, that'll.
And you're a late bloomer, aren't you?
I was born December 27th, so you know, a bit of a you know, just enjoying life for the first time being an adult. And so I was like, yeah, why not? I'll go drink really heavily on this biomed camp and make some new friends, like-minded people. And I ended up like loving the people I was with on that camp. They were, especially the leaders of that camp, not even like the people I was with. Like, yes, I enjoyed that, but the leaders, the people above me, I really connected with them. And the camp was run by the society called the Biomedicine Student Society. And I hope they seem to reciprocate that kind of fondness. And so they really encouraged me to like join them and be a part of their club and things. So I was like, yeah, why not? So I gave a speech at this like a little meeting to be elected. And I did like some beer bong thing. And it was a bit of a joke at the time. And I got elected because it's a beer bong. Like, I guess that's like, kind of like, it's a bit of a joke.
Very impressive.
It's a joke at that level. Like, but they seem to like that. And I guess from there, I got elected again the next year, and I really got involved. I wasn't doing too much. I was like running barbecues, I was putting posters up. It was very kind of minor things. I didn't really know the extent of the society and what they did and everything, but I was kind of just involved with it in that sense. I went to the events, I like helped them, I hyped them up, whatever they needed. I kind of was like, hey, I'll help you. Second year, kind of a very similar thing. I got re-elected. That time I waxed my legs. I waxed racing stripes down my legs.
Oh god!
I let people pull the things off. I had the video somewhere. I'm not sure. I'm not showing it. But, again, another really silly thing. And I guess that's what my kind of point is. Through my degree, I kind of matured a lot. And I felt like even the second time when I waxed my leg, I was kind of like, I don't want to do this. Like, I kind of just am doing it because it's a joke and kind of set that example myself. But the next year, I actually ran for president of the club. I was feeling really confident. I felt like I was becoming a little bit more confident in my skin and confident in society and kind of what they give. And I learned a lot more about what they do and they give back to people and they organize things and they make people feel more comfortable and accepted. And I really liked what their kind of like motivations. And the presidents I'm speaking to, they really like, one of them in particular was a real strong role model for me. And I kind of, again, he's actually the person I wanted to emulate when setting those bars for me. And so
it's like that pace setter sort of thing, yeah.
And that was awesome. And so I ended up running for the position and I ended up being elected as president of the club. And that was last year. And that was a whirlwind experience in terms of probably the fastest maturing experience of someone's life.
Yeah, talk to us about it.
Accepting that presidency.
Crazy year it has been.
Well, that's it, right? Even with COVID or without it, like, it would have been hectic, but it was just really full on. We got really lucky that I got elected just when we were coming out of the second lockdown. So we were able to have people for like 6 months. So we had quite a few events. We ran a camp, which was very, very stressful. We take 120 kids off to the countryside, and it's just, you know, it kind of activities, there's drinking, there's kind of like fun and games. It's to like mingle and meet people, but there's a lot of responsibility because when you're the president or when you're even executive, not necessarily the president, the buck stops with you. You are accountable for every single person on that camp. And that's a lot of responsibility to hold. And I think it didn't really sink in at the time. I was kind of so like, trying to like fix everything, like kind of like run around, put out fires on the camp.
Putting out spot fires,
yeah. Absolutely. Oh, that was my entire job on the camp. Like something would come up, a fire alarm would get taken out of the ceiling. I have to yell, like, not yell, raise my voice and kind of like, to kind of like, encourage, but like
be the parent.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I had to play like the dad card. And that was something really new to me. And although like I've worked in kind of leadership roles before, nothing to this extent, and nothing where again I was the top. Like as in like
you were the top.
I was actually I was like the there was no one to ask for help apart from like my peers, and so that was kind of a scary experience. Not to say my peers were so helpful. Like the rest of the community were amazing on the camp. So it wasn't just me involved, not in the slightest. However, like, being that like top authority, I felt like there was a little bit more like stress.
Bit more weight on your shoulders as well. Because if someone gets hurt, like, yeah, it might be their fault. Like they tripped over something, they drank a bit too much, but you still feel that guilt.
Absolutely. And so there was actually one example of this that thank gosh it didn't happen. But there was a lake on the camp, and I was very, very paranoid about that because you can imagine if a kid drank too much alcohol and stumbled into a lake and drowned, would have been fucking awful. Like it would have been terrible. And so I was so scared about that the whole camp. I like made a really strong point, don't go near that bottle of water. I made a strong point to the leaders, like, you need to like watch this. We walked around doing rounds until like 5 a.m. to make sure everyone was asleep. I kept walking past that lake to see if people were there. And like that responsibility, no one makes you do that. no one says to you, Josh, you have to go do this. Like, you have to actually like go this far and be this excessive. But like,
I think that just demonstrates like the type of person you are and like your character. You're so like kind-hearted and willing to look out for those people, and that's what like makes a true leader.
oh, thank you. Thank you.
No, like I think just having that compassion and like being able to assess that situation and say, hey, look, like that's pretty dangerous. Not many people like understand that, and I see that like so often, like so many people just missing out on these small things as well.
That's true. Although I do think though that it can be learned. I don't think it's purely like an innate thing. Like I didn't come out of the womb being like, yes, that is dangerous. Let's like be careful. Like being very proactive. I definitely learned it, and I definitely like over time I got more and more involved in these experiences. I also got involved in hospitality. I now manage a bar in King Street. So if anyone wants to pop in, feel free to say hi.
Drinks on Josh.
Drinks on Josh. But you've been involved in that, like learning RSA things, learning how to deal with customers. When I became the manager, actually being the one that had to like confront drunkards and kick people out of the venue and being security of the venue and dealing with like difficult situations, it makes you like project forwards and like hypothesize what could go wrong. I think being prepared for so many different things is a skill that you learn, and I think it's a really important skill. I think it carries over to the rest of life. And so I'll take an example. Even going into biomedicine or going to medicine now, I didn't plan on getting accepted into medicine. I tried, I did my best. I sat the interview, I sat Gamsat, I sat the GPA, I applied and everything. But I always planned, hey, I'll probably end up going to a different university. I'll plan for that. Like maybe I'll end up not at Melbourne Uni, maybe I'll end up at like Griffith on the Gold Coast for medicine, because that's the standards are a little bit lower there. Or maybe I won't get in this year, I'll end up doing research and then reapply next year, and then I'll do this XYZ. I'd always have a plan Z, like always. I think that was a skill that I learned from like all these leadership things and like being in charge and being responsible. That made me manage myself a little bit better. It made me manage my expectations, and it also meant that when I did get accepted, great. If I didn't get accepted, I wouldn't have been crushed. I would have been okay. I would have known what to do. I wouldn't have been lost. A lot of people, I feel, put all their eggs in one basket. They go, I'm going to study medicine. And they come out of like school and they're like, I'm doing medicine. They don't get into Monash and they're like, okay, I'm going to study medicine and graduate medicine in Melbourne, blah, 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 whatever they do. And then they get all the way through and they don't get in. Maybe they're not academic, or maybe their academics weren't high enough. Whatever it is, maybe, again, they just messed up the interview. It's not necessarily a representation of their skill, but maybe they just don't get in that first year. I know plenty of people that are very capable that haven't got in multiple years in a row just because something hasn't been the standard that has been that year, that's been set by that year. And they get so, what's the word?
Distraught.
That's exactly. Depressed. They don't know what to do with themselves. And like, they don't know what they just kind of sit back and they go, well, I was going to do this. I can't get in. I'm just going to reapply next year. I'm going to reapply again and again and again and again. And they get caught in the loop of this reapplying. And they put...
Do you see it happen often?
I see people not know when to like reevaluate. Or I see people that put all their eggs in this medicine basket.
Yep.
And then they don't even think to look for opportunities outside of that. The reality is medicine is a career. And it's a very rewarding career, but it's not the only rewarding career. I think a lot of people say they want to study medicine because they want to help people. I think that's a really, this is a tip, guys. If you sit your interview, do not say that in your interview. Do not say you want to study medicine to help people, because most careers help people. What do firefighters do? They put out fires. What do you reckon putting out fires are? It helps people. What police officers do? Oh, that's controversial. But
yes, that's actually
that's very controversial.
We'll skip past that one.
Yeah, we'll skip past
PTs
that.
do.
What do PTs do? What does most accountants? What do financial advisors do? A lot of them help people. So to say you want to help people is not necessarily insincere, but I don't think it's an accurate representation of why you want to study medicine. And so I think if you are going down this pathway, you really need to take a step back and be like, why do I want to study medicine? Is it for the prestige? Is it for the money? Because if it's those reasons, I tell you right now, there are better paying jobs that if you're smart enough to get into medicine, you can 100% get a job that pays you way more. So just letting anyone know that if they're trying to study medicine for those reasons, look, there are better opportunities. The reason I want to study medicine, I think I kind of alluded to this before. So I felt like it was kind of this integration between academia and patient care. And both of those pathways were things I was really interested in. I was kind of wrestling between, going down that paramedic kind of like ski patrol, that kind of route, and also going into like teaching and like academics and things. And I felt medicine was this combination of both that also included my passion for the biological sciences. It was this kind of this really nice triad of things. And this is also what I said in my interview. So I think they probably were like, yeah, this is
damn, we like that
answer. Because I think the most important thing is to reason with yourself. Why are you doing what you're doing? I think studying for the interview, I had to reason with myself. I'd been in this path, I sat the Gamsat, I sat in GPA, I did all these things, whatever. I did that because I was still chasing this kind of goal, but I didn't really understand until I got the interview why I was chasing that. I think that's why I ended up where I am, is because I actually understood my motivations. And that's what I'd encourage everyone to really do.
And what steps do you take to go and like assess yourself? Like, do you sit down and like journal, or do you just like sit down and have a chat to people?
I think that's it. I think I talk to people, and I talk to people about things, and I talk to people a lot. Like, I spend a lot of my time talking, and it's just brainstorming. It's like, what would I do? Like, I again, like I was talking about,
the hypothesizing,
different routes. Like, what would I have done if I'm not sitting here right now? And there's a few things, but there's always holes. There's always been a hole in every single bit that I've tried to do. Like, I've been like, hey, paramedics, okay. I feel like I'd get bored because I don't have that like intense intellectual kind of stimulation all the time. And something I'm a bit of a nerd in that capacity, that I do really enjoy that stuff. I enjoy thinking. I enjoy like using my brain a lot, like in that novel kind of strange ways, if that makes sense. And so I was kind of, okay, maybe I don't want to do that. But then I went into like thinking the academic side, like the researching, the creating, like if you're a second year biomedical student, you'll know all about molecular cell biology, which is the very, very intense biochemistry of things. And it's a bit dry, but I actually really liked it. And so I was like, okay, I really like this, but I can't imagine myself sitting in a laboratory for days on end.
Without interaction.
And so I was like, wow, what really fulfills all these check boxes of my requirements for a job? And it came down to medicine. That was it. I really can't think of another job that would have ticked everything. Like, there were other jobs that are very good. Maybe if I was more inclined into like English and literature, I might have picked a lawyer or something, or picked something that was like more in that discipline. But I think just because I did enjoy the sciences, like it's nice having that carry through, especially like in third year. I ended up majoring in anatomy, and doing that made me like settle medicine. It was like, okay, I love this. I love like the anatomy. I love the human body. I love all that stuff that comes with it.
Plus gym.
I was going to say, yeah, that's part of what goes with it.
It's a good segue.
Like, absolutely. And so, yeah, that's why I think that's really my rationale.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm still waiting for that day to find the why, but you know.
Yeah, everyone takes time.
Yeah, I feel like we're thrown into the deep end as like an 18-year-old fresh out of high school. What do you want to do for the rest of your life?
Absolutely.
Sort of thing. So, you know, we're all still trying to find it. And in what, like the second episode, like so far back, it was like ages ago, I was talking to Steg and Dom about it, and it's like finding your why, you know? Like we're all searching for it, and it looks like, yeah, you've come to a really nice conclusion. Or, well, I mean, it's still starting.
Still starting, that's it. That's
still
the start of the
starting.
journey. Absolutely.
Okay.
However, that being said, that's why I'm very, very glad that I didn't do undergraduate medicine, because I feel like I wouldn't have found that why so quickly. And I would have been kind of thrown into a pathway that, yes, it is the same end goal, but I actually understand my motivations a lot better now.
Yeah, it's like the journey that you took to get there.
And that, I would never trade that. If I could go back and someone say, you'd cut 2 years off your medical degree and you'd be a doctor 2 years earlier, you get 2 years more pay, you'd get all this stuff, you'd be finished your training, I'd be like, nah, I'd do biomed again. I would, 100%. Even if I had to run the risk of not getting into medicine, I think I would do biomed again. Because
you found out so much about yourself.
I found out so much about myself from it.
Yeah, for sure. And like, going back to the presidency, like you're running this big club, very, very big club actually, because I'm part of DSA startup. Like literally, I don't know how long BSS has been going on for, but
2008.
Yeah, that's a big portfolio, and like lots of accumulation of funds and reputation as well. Like, you must have learned a lot about yourself.
Absolutely, I did. I learned not just how I think and how I like what my passions are, but I also learned about how to like manage people and with people, and manage like take more of a leadership role, and not just manage myself as a person, but manage how I interact with other people, in the sense that on that committee, I was obviously in a leadership role. However, before that, I'd been in kind of like a less of a leadership role. I'd just been part of the committee as a general member. And so playing multiple roles, I learned how to play those roles well. I learned how to like interact in a nice way, like to satisfy, like to actually reach kind of what the grand conclusion in that case was. So whether it was running an event, whether I was a leader of running that event, whether I was just helper, whether I was XYZ. I definitely think that experience is so rewarding. And I really encourage anyone to get involved in a community. I know a lot of people take a perspective on uni that's like, oh, get my degree, get out, whatever. You're really shooting yourself in the foot. I will say that. My sister actually is exactly this person. She studies psychology. She's 2 years older than me. And she went to Monash, and I think she went to uni once, and she's like, nah, never again. I'm just going to do this all online. I'm just going to go to my classes and not. And I think she really, really hindered her growth as a person, because she really stayed in this kind of bubble throughout her whole degree. She didn't get the opportunity to kind of grow and meet new people. Because again, I think I've mentioned this before, you are shaped by your interactions with people and the people that are closest to you.
I think that's why, like, I know you said in the car, like, you were like so happy that I reached out and like said, hey, you want to like go gym, get some food, and like do this podcast, because it's like I'm all about meeting new people and like listening to their stories and like where they come from as well.
Absolutely.
I think it's such an important skill, and like extrinsically, I think you grow as a person. You know, like you're able to be more empathetic, and that is such a like important skill in life as well. And yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's important not just for if you want to study medicine, just in general. Like
exactly.
A lot of people it's very scary that a lot of people lack empathy. I've met a lot of people. They just don't. It's not because they're malicious. It's because they don't think. And it's because they haven't been exposed to like other people's perspectives and other people's like lifestyles, because again, they've lived in this kind of bubble. It's like my sister. She's not a bad person in the slightest. She's a lovely person. However, she doesn't have the same probably extent of empathy because she doesn't interact with as many people. She hasn't seen different perspectives of life. And so I think that's really important to shaping you as a person.
Yeah. And I think that's why I take this perspective of like high school is very like limiting, because you're forced to interact with these people in that bubble, and like a lot of the time you don't click.
Absolutely.
So you don't learn how to be empathetic, and then you're like, well, you take this closed-minded like thought process, and you're like, you take that into uni, and then you just don't grow as a person.
You got to ditch it. I remember like I used to be friends with a lot of people in high school, and I don't talk to them at all anymore. And I'm very grateful I don't, because they were just very closed-minded individuals. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't super open-minded then either, but the fact that I tried to reach out, tried to step out of my comfort zone, I think that's been really like a growth experience for me. And I feel like I said this to my mum the other day. I said I would be scared to see who I am if I didn't go through this pathway of biomedicine. And I went into Monash and I did the undergrad med pathway, because in my past, I think one of my kind of fatal flaws, this was years and years ago, was I was a little bit cocky. I was a little bit kind of like, I think
we all are.
Yeah.
At some point in our life, like you just have everything. You know, everything comes your way, everything's working, and then you're like, yeah, I'm on top of the world, you know, and then you start to belittle other people around you.
Absolutely.
I definitely went through that as a person, and you know, you lose friends because of it, and you lose respect, but it's like how you bounce back from it.
Absolutely. And I felt like I would not want to, if I'd gotten everything I aimed for at that time, I would be so different, and I'm very glad I didn't. I'm very glad. I think failure is really important. I think it shapes you, who you are. If you can bounce back from that, then you can bounce back from most things, honestly. I think resiliency is not innate. It's also learned. And I think like if you have just gone through life getting everything you want, and say you get 100% in the first Gamsat, so you get 100 out of 100 or whatever, and then you get a GPA of 70, a perfect score, and you get into medicine, whatever, and you've gotten everything you wanted all the way through, like, hey, like, who are you going to be if you... what is going to happen to you when you actually inevitably meet a failure? You're going to meet one. No one succeeds forever. There's not this permanent succession. It's not like, yes, I hit this milestone, I jumped this hurdle. Eventually going to hit a hurdle that you can't clear. And then what are you going to do? So I think, yeah, that resiliency is really important, and it's great to learn it younger, because when it gets older, the hurdles get bigger. So...
And even like dialing down, like things like gym, you know, like your personal milestones with like what your bench, squat, deadlift, like you'll always hit those like plateaus, and it's
absolutely.
Like, yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you know a lot about that as well, and it's just like how you overcome it. You always face adversity. I feel like if you're getting everything your way, there's no way you learn how to respect other people around you as well.
No.
I learned that the hard way.
Everyone, I think a lot of people learn it the hard way.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, you need to learn how to bounce back from your failures. And it sounds so cliche, but it's so important.
A lot of cliches are true. I think this is it, right?
Yeah, I think so too. And like with this podcast, you know, like lots of topics get discussed. Like you talk about like how you're a better person, how you grow, how you learn. Lots of cliches pop up. But then when you think about it, and when I talk about it as well with like with guests, like I'm like, hey, like it actually like makes sense, you know.
It keeps
like,
coming up.
Maybe for a reason. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Life, hey?
Life, hey? Yeah, that's it, right?
Life with Lam.
That's it. Tune in, guys.
Thank you so much. We have a little bit of time, so I want you to talk about, let's say, gym. You know,
Gym.
Something you're gonna probably be doing for the next 3 months.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah, every day. No recovery. I mean, like,
what's that, man?
Yeah, what are you gonna do with yourself? You know, next 2-3 months.
That's a really
talking about getting a hobby, or like maybe you should learn an instrument.
Maybe. Well, that's it, right? I've developed my it was my hobbies, I guess you could call them hobbies, in third year in biomedicine. I got really busy. And I got really busy not just with uni and academics, but also the like the co-curriculars I had. I had the Biomedicine Society. I had like AMSU commitments. I had work. I was working 3 days a week for 30 hours a week, basically. It was big days. And so when I balanced all these things, I really didn't have a lot of time for me. And and also gymming every single day. It was really a full, jam-packed, hectic schedule. And so taking a step back, I don't have these co-curriculars anymore, but I'm finding that I don't know what I want to do anymore. Like I don't know what I want to do with my spare time, because gym, look, what it takes an hour and a half out a day. Exactly. Like, come on, like it doesn't take that much. I try to get my 10,000 steps a day. I still work in the hospitality industry, but reality is I have a lot of spare time, and I don't really know what I want to do with it yet. And did
you find that you enjoyed the sort of pace that you were going at with like? I think
that it was about halfway through. I had to take an extra day off work, and I went from 30 to 20 hours because I said I was very proactive in the sense that I was like, this is unsustainable. No one can do this. I was like, oh, I'm sure there are people that are freaks, but I can't do this. And I had to be a little bit humble, and I had to step back and be like recognize my own limitations and be like, I can't keep this pace up, or I will burn out, and I will just give half effort to everything. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to like screw people over in that sense, where I have a responsibility to certain things, and so I have to prioritize those because that's what I've been elected to do. That's what I've been told. That's what I have to do. Even with my academics, for my goals, I have to do that. And so I had to reprioritize my life. And I realized, like, for example, my work in hospitality, that was not my priority. I'm not going to hospitality. I'm not starting up my own bar. I'm not starting up my own nightclub yet. But I'm not starting that stuff up. So I had to kind of reprioritize that down the ladder. Also, my relationships too. Like, I have a girlfriend. My relationship with other people as well. I had to kind of make sure that those were kind of flourishing.
Yeah, and it's great to see that you had some humility, and you were like, okay, no, I probably need to strip this back, dial it down a little bit because it's getting a bit too intense. Like I think that's, I keep saying like, oh, this is a huge skill, but like it is like understanding your own limitations and like having that humility to be like, hey, maybe I just need to tone it down a little bit.
Who are you trying to prove yourself to when you like take on 50 different things and try to like go your max, go full out? Like the reality is, I know people like that, and it's like, what are you doing this for? Like, what's the actual reason you're doing it? Understanding the reason you're doing things is really important, because if you don't understand the reason you're doing things, like, what are you doing? You're just going to do 50 different things. You're going to burn out. Your mental health is going to suffer. Your relationship's going to suffer. The effort that you're giving to everything is going to diminish. You're not going to be as efficient or as effective as a person. So then what's the point of doing 50 different things? So that was something that I definitely had to do, was reevaluate myself, reprioritize things. And just, I thought when I went to third year, all you're saying about that pace, is that no, I couldn't keep that pace up. And so I had to reevaluate after I think I lasted 8 weeks. I was like, I can't keep doing this too much. So I took back work, and then now though, I think the pace is probably a little bit slow.
Yeah.
And I think the reason for that is when you do all these things and you do BSS and you do all these different commitments, you get very good at time management and managing your time. And so I was a pretty well-oiled machine in terms of I'd get up at 9 a.m. for a meeting for 3 hours or 2-hour meeting, and then another meeting, and then I'd go to the gym, and then I'd have work, and then I'd have to do a few lectures, and then the day's over. I had no free time that day. And then the next day, exactly the same thing, a different meeting for someone else, and then something else, and then, oh God, the amount of meetings I had was excessive. And it wasn't necessarily all like one thing. It wasn't all BSS. It was the fact that I took on so many different things. And if I could go back, I wouldn't take a few of them, because I feel like they didn't help me grow as a person, and they kind of just hindered me.
Yeah, I read this book titled Essentialism, and it's like the art of being able to say no is so crucial. And being able to take a step back and not feel pressured in a situation to like take this opportunity, you know, like it's all good in that to take opportunities, but being able to understand like when to say no and when to be like, hey, this is like probably too much for my platter. Like I found that book so rewarding to read, and I feel like if you get a chance, you should read it.
I think I should. I think I've learned that the hard way. That's what it is that if you don't say no, you're going to end up in a position that you're not comfortable. And although I find that discomfort breeds growth, it does, there's a limit. There's a limit where it's just
and then it breeds that
debilitating.
half effort that you were talking about.
It's debilitating. And it's like, okay, you need to actually learn your limitations. And I guess an argument could be made that you learn your limitations by experimentation, but you need an out. You need to pick things that you can bail on.
I'm guessing these commitments were like commitments.
They
like
were
contracted.
They were like, well, I guess I'd have to resign from the position. I could formally resign, do all these like paperwork. No, I'm not doing that. I got elected to the job. I got elected for a year. I took on those things. Yeah, that's my fault, or in terms of like that's my decision, and I had to own that decision. And there were a few times, especially in the BSS, that it got really stressful, and I was like to the point where I was like, I'm thinking I might resign, because it's just too much. Like it was, I felt like very pressured in a lot of times, but I ended up. I had to think back to why I was doing it. And I was like, I'm doing this for XYZ. I find it's a really rewarding experience. I want to give back to people that have given to me for the last 2 years of my life. And like reminding myself of the rationale for doing it really made me keep going. And I'm very glad I didn't resign. But there are a few times I was like, touch and go. I was like, oh.
Yeah, for sure. I want to delve into your relationships. Mm-hmm. Not just with your girlfriend, but with like friends, family. Did you find that it deteriorated because of this, like, the rigours of biomed?
I think so. I think it's really difficult to know because my relationship was over COVID, right? Most of it. And so because it was over COVID, it's in a different circumstance. I feel like it didn't deteriorate as much as it would have if I had to go to uni. Because if I had to go to uni and I had to be there every day and then do meetings, etc., I just find no time for it whatsoever.
And because you're adding travel time as well.
And the fact that I think as well with my parents. So I moved out in first year and then I moved back with my parents when COVID happened because I was like, I don't have a job, I can't afford this. I didn't get my job keeper because I've only been working for 11 months, so they're 12. So I missed out. I was a casual, so I was sick. I was like,
L.
Yeah, I was an L. It was a fat L. So I had to, I basically had to go back home and work from home and like live or study from home. And I think that was actually a really good experience because I had so much like free time in the sense of not free time, but like you could go out and have a cup of tea and then you'd still see your parents and you would still talk to them. And it's not like if I was in the city, I feel like I would never have had time to go all the way out and see them. And like with my girlfriend at the time, like she would come down and visit me, vice versa, whenever I get the chance. And it was really good because it was like there was nothing else going on that I felt like it was a good thing the pandemic happened at that time.
I think in some ways, the pandemic was rewarding. Like, I don't know, some people might, and like because of mental health and everything, I completely understand, but sometimes it is good to have that like foot off the pedal.
I think it has silver linings. Probably,
for sure.
Like knowing that it was a struggle. I think it was a struggle for anyone. No one's denying that. But I think there were some silver linings for certain people, which I know that I'm one of those people that had a silver lining, was that, hey, I got to spend time with my parents, my girlfriend at the time, like that stuff. Like it was very, very beneficial in that regard. So if I could reset the pandemic, no, I would not though. I would be like,
glad things are opening again.
Glad things are opening again.
And we can head down to your bar.
Local bar or the bar, yeah, damn, okay. I'll catch you there.
Josh, it has been a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank you.
Do we have any final words from the man himself?
Final words, I don't really know what to say when you put me on the spot like that. I guess just
you've been speaking hell well, so I don't know. Just thought I might give it a bit last rev.
Look, I don't know what we've finished. I guess the most important thing probably today is understanding, I think, yourself and your motivations and why you're doing what you're doing. And I think we spoke about in the context of medicine and career pathways, but I think it extends to like a lot of different things. And like even yourself with passion projects like this, understanding why you're doing this really kind of helps shaping you as a person. So I think that's something really important, to take a step back and think and to actually determine a reason. There will be a concrete reason. It's not just a feeling. There is a concrete reason. It just takes a while to find that reason.
Yeah, and you have to do that poking and prodding. I mean, this podcast is to like meet people like you and have like awesome conversations.
That's awesome experience.
And we can find Josh's socials.
Oh god. Instagram.
I can put it in the description box.
Oh yeah, god.
For you. Yeah, I know. Don't say that out loud. No. Follow this man. He's very attractive and he's got a whole career ahead of him.
He's in a mirror, mate.
Thank you so much for hopping on. Be sure to follow at Life With Lam podcast on Instagram. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and you can listen to Anchor as well. But Josh, thank you so much for hopping on again. Awesome. I hope the listeners can take something out of this, and I certainly learnt a lot from you in our second time meeting. So
awesome. Thank you, Jaden. It was an awesome experience, and hopefully, thank you for this opportunity. So thank you very much.
No worries. We'll see you in the next episode.
Awesome. See you soon.